Hello, 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 and welcome. It is January 4th, 2026, and it's Sunday. We're about to start the first week of 2026, so I'm about to pour me some coffee. It's 9:22 a.m. when I'm starting this stream, so cheers if you're having any coffee. I either drink Black Rifle coffee or Death Wish. So if that's your flavor, join me in having a cup of coffee. But today on the stream, we're going to react, respond, and add some commentary to two separate videos. One from Shetty about manifestation and goals heading into 2026, and one with Andrew Huberman and Chris Williamson about habits and productivity. So I think each video will piggyback off one another, and I think they're going to be great videos. Haven't watched either one, going to watch with you here right now so I can learn in real time, add my commentary in real time, and hopefully give you guys some valuable information to take with you so we can have a great 2026. And speaking of 2026, I think what's important about fueling our 2026 is reflecting on our 2025. And so I created about a 35-minute podcast episode, really the ultimate reflection guide for your 2025. So please check that out. My podcast is called Something for Everybody. It's on all major podcast platforms, and it's your ultimate reflection guide because we don't just learn from experiences, we learn from reflection plus experiences equals growth. So use that podcast episode as your guide so you can use everything that you went through, obstacles, setbacks, challenges, as fuel for your growth for your 2026. And then we start thinking about targets and goals and habits and all that stuff we're going to discuss in this stream. And then I'm coming out with a goal setting masterclass and a habits 101 class that will really piggyback off of the ultimate reflection guide. So that's all I have to say. Again, my podcast is called Something for Everybody. It's on all major podcast platforms. But let's jump in right now to the first video. So let me just share my screen and we will get rocking and rolling. There's that. Okay.
Hey everyone, it's Shetty, your host of On Purpose. Welcome back to the podcast. Make sure you've subscribed if you haven't. It makes a big difference to podcasters and it means you'll never miss an episode. Now, today's episode is all about how to manifest all of your dreams coming true in 2026.
Yeah, like you said, subscribe. Not to Jay Shetty, but to Aaron Mashpitz's YouTube channel. So, but here we go. Some how to manifest and your dreams in 2026. Let's fucking rock and roll.
The class on turning goals into reality. Now, I want to be honest with you. We've all started a new year with big goals. This is the year I'm finally going to start that business. This is the year I'm going to lose the weight. This is the year I'm finally going to launch that podcast. Every January, people make goals. New body, new job, new business, new life, new you. And by February,
Anyways, if you're on TikTok, best place to be is over on YouTube for the full stream. You'll hear some bunch of pauses throughout because I'm reacting to a video. So if you want to check that out, you can. If not, stay on TikTok, check out the merchandise, all that good stuff. Cheers.
of them are gone. But get this, only 1% said they lasted for 11 or 12 months. Not because you don't care, but because the dreams we built are built on excitement, not systems. Real manifestation isn't wishing and waiting. It's wiring. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you build a system for. And that requires a plan that rewires your mind, your emotions, your habits to match your vision. So in this episode, we're not going to talk about.
No, I I agree with that sentiment, of course, right? But I think there is this thing called the fresh start effect, where New Year's, birthdays, Mondays give humans this sense of motivation. And so we do want to be able to capture that motivation. And I think what I talked about heavily and extensively in my goal setting masterclass that I created for my podcast, which will come out next week, is this word called clarity. You have to get clear on what you actually want when it comes to your goals, right? Like it's the new year. You want to lose weight. You want to make more money. You want to have better relationships, whatever, right? The question you want to ask yourself, most importantly, and revisit that question over and over and over and over again is, what do I really want? This creates the appropriate direction for you to head in. Because I less think about goals and I more think about targets. We're trying to aim at the right direction so our life becomes better because of it. So, what do you really want is the core foundational question before you start to manifest or goal set or target set anything in your life, because then you know that you're actually heading in the right direction, and your direction is going to be more important than your speed, especially if you've extended it over, like, I'm going to get this done in 12 months, 18 months, 24 months, not like I have to get in shape by next week. That's not possible. And so your target is important, and asking that question and getting clarity on that question of what you really want is wildly important. So let's continue with Jay Shetty.
About luck, we're going to talk about alignment, the psychology and strategy behind turning your vision for 2026 into visible results. 2026 won't be your best year because you wish harder. It will be your best year because you align deeper. Step number 1, end before you begin. Let go of the year that's still living in your head. We all love beginnings, but beginnings don't work unless you properly end. You finished a year of school, you start the next one. You end a relationship, you start another one. Beginnings don't work unless you properly end. Most of us start a new year without ever ending the last one. We rush into January full of plans and resolutions, but part of us is still carrying the weight of what didn't happen last.
Hence why I mentioned at the top that we should certainly 100% be reflecting deeply on our 2025. It's not too late. We're only 4 days into the year. Monday's 5 days in. You can do this 2 weeks into the year. It doesn't matter. Whenever you have the space and time to sit down for an hour and deeply think about some of the most important questions you need to ask yourself to reflect on your experiences of 2025, to use them as fuel for growth heading into the next year. Otherwise, you're going to repeat the same things over and over and over and over and over again. And you're going to keep wondering why. And then you're going to blame it on yourself like it's a character defect, when really it's not a character defect. There's nothing wrong with you. You are capable of achieving your dreams or sticking to these habits. It's a systems failure. And that should be empowering. Okay, how do I change my systems and my structures to help me align more deeply, like Jay Shetty is saying, to the thing I really want most? But what do I want the most? What do I really want? And so, again, I encourage you to check out my podcast episode, The Ultimate Reflection Guide of 2025. My podcast is called Something for Everybody. Search it on every major podcast platform. But that's really important. So let's continue with Jay Shetty.
Yeah. The goals we missed, the relationship that ended, the business that didn't take off, the version of ourselves we thought we'd be by now. And so we're technically in a new year, but emotionally, we're still stuck in the last one. When you don't consciously end a year, it lingers. It shows up in subtle ways. You hesitate to dream because you don't trust yourself to follow through. You avoid risks because last time it hurt you too much. You start over, but secretly believe you're already behind. That's what it means to have a year still living in your head. It keeps whispering old stories into new seasons. Before you decide what you want this year, you need to ask, what am I done carrying? Every new goal struggles to take root because we haven't released what's been draining us. The resentment, the guilt, the habit that keeps looping. Psychologists call this cognitive closure, the act of finishing an emotional story so your brain can focus on a new one. So take a minute tonight and finish this sentence. In 2025, I finally stopped X. You'll be amazed how freeing that is. You can even create
Yeah, in my reflection guide, which I used from Sahil Bloom, he talks about energy drainers, energy givers, boat anchors. Like, really, boat anchors are things that are just holding you down, whether that's limiting beliefs, whether that's people, right? And then what are the things that gave us energy, that revitalized us, that gave us a zest for life? And what are the things that drained our energy, that took us away? from the things we love most, that when we did that thing, we felt like shit afterwards, right? We know that the fastest way to improve our life is to stop doing the things that make us feel like shit. And we have to reflect upon those things. We have to find out what those things are. And maybe we can't totally eliminate them because of sort of the parameters of our life, but we can have a target of like giving that less of our energy, or doing that thing less often and doing more things that give us energy and feel zestful. I think that's also important as well.
Small ritual. Write down what you're ready to release on paper. Burn it, bury it, or tear it up. Say thank you for what you taught me. I don't need to carry you anymore. That moment of symbolic closure signals to your nervous system, we're done here. It gives your energy somewhere new to go. Letting go of the year that's still living in your head doesn't mean erasing the past. It means reclaiming your capacity to begin again. You can't step fully into what's next if you're still holding hands with what's over. You can't start your year strong.
This is really about being in the present moment. And they say this all the time in AA, which I find this, to be a very funny statement, but extremely true, right? If you have one foot in the past and you have one foot in the future, you are peeing on the present moment. And we don't want to pee on the present moment. We want to be in the present moment, because everything that's good is expressed in the here and the now. And this is all we have, is the here and now. With my athletes, I train them to think what's important now, what's important now. And it's this moment right here, or this pitch right in front of me, or this conversation right in front of me, or this call, or this podcast, whatever it is, right here, right now. I want to be exactly where my feet are. And we can't do that, like Jay Shetty is alluding to, is if we haven't closed the door on a certain chapter, or reflected on it, or learned the lessons of the past. We're going to have one foot in there. And then we're so worried about what we're going to try and do in the future that we haven't really figured out the plan of attack, or understanding how we're going to be here now to do that thing, or what direction we actually want to head in.
If you never ended the last one, you can buy the planner, set the goals, repeat the affirmations, but if part of you is still carrying last year's disappointments, fears, or unfinished stories, you're not starting fresh. You're starting crowded. Because the truth is, new beginnings don't start on January 1st. They start the moment you stop dragging old energy into new opportunities.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it, just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44.
See ya.
The second step is choose a word, not a goal. Because goals change, but energy is constant. Resolutions fade because they're rigid. A word.
That's why I like the idea of setting a target more than I like setting a goal. Goals are largely out of our control. Goals are outcome based, and that's fine. We can have a goal or an outcome based goal in the future that we're headed towards. But every day we want to hit those little targets that continue to give us the sort of the boost we need to keep moving forward. We know motivation fades, discipline is really what lasts. And so that's why I think about targets. And what Jay Shetty is alluding to here is a one-word intention that you want to kind of live by. This could be related to your core values, or your first principles, or the principles that you find most important. For me, it's consistency, zest, honesty, resilience. Those are the ones that I really vibe with. Consistency and zest are my two most important values, and I don't want to live with those every single day. Consistent as a business person, entrepreneur, husband, father, and I want to live with zest. I want to live with energy and enthusiasm in all of the domains that I'm in. When I'm with my son, I want to be zesty. When I'm with my wife, I want to be zesty. When I'm working, I want to be zesty. I want to have that energy and enthusiasm for the things that I'm doing, and I want to do it consistently. So those have been my words for a while now. But what are your intentions? How do you want to show up? What's your identity, your repeated beingness? What are your core values, your first principles? Those relate and align to the targets you have for your life, which really give you the power and the capabilities and potentially the momentum or the motivation to actually achieve the thing you want to achieve. So let's get back on it.
Word gives you direction without pressure. If your goal is to start a business, your word might be build. If your goal is to lose weight, your word might be discipline. If your dream is to launch a podcast, it might be voice. That single word acts as a psychological anchor. A 2019 Stanford study found that people who framed their goals around identity-based words, I am becoming focused, instead of tasks, I will focus, were 65% more likely to stay consistent. So before setting your plan,
That's really interesting. I love that because, again, like I just stated, identity is repeated beingness. So who are you being on a consistent basis? I am focused. So I'm being focused. That's part of now my identity, and can be a powerful driver and motivator, like Jay Shetty is alluding to.
set your energy. Your word becomes your compass. You can then say, does this choice align with who I'm becoming or with who I'm done being? I realized that when I stopped obsessing over goals and started focusing on growth, I actually reached my goals faster because growth made me better, stronger, smarter. When you chase goals, you measure distance. When you chase growth, you build momentum. Goals are external. They live on your calendar, your to-do list, your vision board. Growth is internal. It lives in your mindset, your habits, your character. Most people focus on the
Speaking of growth, Tom Brady has this brilliant insight that he shared when he was retired, and he was on a podcast with someone. I think it was PBD maybe, and he shared this insight. You know, Patrick Bet David asked him, "Did you ever think about becoming the greatest quarterback of all time?" And Tom Brady says, "No, my only goal was to be the best at getting better." That's the same thing Jay Shetty is talking about. We're focused on the things that are totally 100% within our control. That's why I like the word target over goals. That's why I want to focus on the things that are in my control, not out of my control. And like Tom Brady and like Jay Shetty is saying, we can focus on growth or focus on being the best at getting better, which is in our control, focusing on our attitude, our effort, our response, our work ethic, our things of that nature that allow us to continue to improve and inch closer and closer to becoming the person we want, to doing the thing we want, or all of the above. So I think that's also important.
finish line and forget the training. They want the promotion, the body, the launch, but they skip the process that creates it. That's why step number 3 is create a system, not a wish list. Structure is the real secret behind success. Every dream has 2 parts, intention and infrastructure. You can't manifest a podcast without a recording schedule. You can't build a business without product testing. You can't get fit without consistent sleep and nutrition. James Clear's research shows that you don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. If you want to start a business, create a 30-minute daily idea lab where you brainstorm, test, and learn something new about your industry. If you want to lose weight, don't aim for perfection. Aim for consistency. Start with 3 workouts a week and track progress, not perfection. You want to launch a podcast? Record 1 5-minute solo episode per week. Make it a ritual, not a result. Manifestation only.
Jay Shetty talked about James Clear, which is like, you know, everyone goes to him for habits. Atomic Habits is like one of the greatest selling books of all time. But I really like the book Tiny Habits by BJ Fogg. And I share this insight literally every time I do a stream or a podcast episode or make a video, whatever it is, because I think it's so profoundly important that any habit that you want to create, no matter what, make it too small to fail. So Jay Shetty mentioned 3 workouts a week. You can't start with 3 workouts a week. You're going to fizzle out and fail. But you can start with making that habit too small to fail by doing 1 push-up 1 day a week. And then by the 8th month mark, you are someone who works out 3 days a week because you've incrementally build that habit from there. So we have a longer term vision of who we are and who we could be, not starting off so strong at the beginning that we get burnt out in 3 weeks and then we never work out again. And then we recycle to 2027 and then see have the same fucking goal we did last year because we didn't make that habit too small to fail. So yes, what he's saying is important, but you have to sort of, reduce the what am I saying here? Reduce how hard it is to start by making it too small to fail. I mean, Dr. Jordan Peterson talks about this all the time. It might be embarrassing to start because it's so damn small to do 1 push-up 1 day a week, but fuck it. Who cares? You're going to build it over time. And by the 8th, 9th, 10th month, you are working out 3 days a week. And that's all that people are going to see. And they'll be like, oh my God, wow. It's so cool that you're working out 3 days a week now. You'll be like, yeah, it took me 9 months to get here because I incrementally built it over a long period of time. Had a little brain fart there for a second. But we're back. We're rocking and rolling. Here we go. Jay Shetty.
It works when your calendar matches your calling. Manifestation doesn't work when you're asking for something your habits contradict. It doesn't work if you only visualize the outcome but avoid the process. Manifestation doesn't work when you're waiting for signs instead of building systems. It doesn't work if you want change but refuse to change. It doesn't work when you speak the affirmation but live the opposite. Manifestation doesn't work if your belief expires the moment things get uncomfortable. And it doesn't work when you expect the universe to do what discipline is meant to do. It doesn't work if you're manifesting from fear, not faith, trying to control instead of create. Manifestation works when you match intention with infrastructure.
Listen, it's called Connect Team, and it's insane. I don't do schedules or timesheets manually anymore. And it works?
Step number 4, upgrade your environment, because discipline is easier when you don't fight your surroundings. If you're trying to get off sugar, but every snack in your cupboard is full of sugar, you're now testing yourself. If you want to get off sodas,
discipline is the idea that you're doing what you're supposed to do regardless of how you feel. And then on top of that, there's the idea that you want to buy your willpower at the store. So this could be used for sugar, like Jay Shetty is alluding to, or this could be used to your phone usage, right? You just want to make it a little harder, and you want to cause some friction in between you and the thing you don't want to do. So let's say your phone normally is right by your bedstand or your nightstand, and you don't want to look at it first thing when you wake up in the morning. Okay, great. So if you want to buy your willpower at the store, that means I'm going to put my phone in a separate room, maybe downstairs, maybe in another room, maybe in a lockbox, so that when I do wake up in the morning and I do reach over to grab it, it's not there. Now there's some friction between me and the thing that I don't want to do. So I have to put in effort to go and do the thing I don't want to do. And normally we just move on with our day. Maybe we brush our teeth, we do our personal hygiene routine, and then eventually 30 minutes later, we get to our phone, which is way better than just immediately picking up the phone. Same thing with the food you eat. That's why you don't go to the grocery store when you're hungry, right? You don't buy the foods that you don't want to eat. Don't test your willpower every single day. Don't test your discipline every single day. Make the decision once and then boom, keep going with it. And so I think that's also important to note.
but your refrigerator is full of sodas, you're now testing yourself. If you want to work out, but you haven't found the right gym that's easy to get to or the right workout plan, you're testing yourself. We don't fail because we don't care. We fail because we're constantly testing ourselves. We're making things harder. We're making it harder to feel motivated. We're making it harder to stick to our boundaries. We're making it harder to stick to our own rules. Behavioral science shows that 45% of our actions are habitual and triggered by environment, not motivation. Follow this one thing and you'll reach your goal. If your goal is to eat better, start with your kitchen. If your goal is to focus, put away your phone. If your goal is to save money, start with your spending triggers. If your goal is to build confidence, start with your self-talk. If your goal is to find love, start with your boundaries. If your goal is to grow your business, start with your calendar. If your goal is to heal,
all these goals are brilliant. Great goals will make anyone's life better. Again, when thinking about these are all goals which could be considered targets, which could be considered the direction you want to aim in, which could be really considered how you want to grow as a person to become the best version of yourself in greatest service to the world. And you're not going to achieve, quote unquote, any of these goals or targets unless you simplify the habits down to making them too small to fail and building up from that regard. So let's say again, Jay Shetty talked about sugar. Okay, so say you want to eat less sugar. Okay, great. What's making that habit too small to fail? Okay, well, say you have like a couple pieces of candy or a cookie at night after dinner because you have a sweet tooth. Okay, what about reducing that in half or reducing that by a smidge or doing it not doing it one night a week, right? Instead of doing it 7 days a week, you only eat dessert 6 days a week. I know that might sound dumb and like it's minuscule and it doesn't make any sense, but eventually you go to 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Now you're not doing it any day of the week. And now you just have that cookie every once in a while because you've built that habit, but you started making it too small to fail. So yes, it's great to ask yourself, what do I really want? Then boom, you've created clarity, you've created that target. Now, like Jay Shetty is saying, you have to create the infrastructure and the systems, and it all boils down to the habits. And you want to make that initial habit too small to fail, and then incrementally build from that space moving forward. I know I've said that a lot, but it's really important, and it could be the real driver for you actually creating change in your life. Again, I will be releasing a Habits 101 masterclass on my podcast I believe it's the third Friday of 2026. So please check out my podcast called Something for Everybody to be notified when that gets released.
Start with your habits. If your goal is to be happier, start with your attention, because change doesn't begin with a goal. It begins with your environment. You don't need more willpower. You need fewer friction points. Success isn't about trying harder. It's about designing smarter. If your environment is full of noise, you'll forget what your own voice sounds like. If your environment is filled with clutter, your mind will mirror the mess. If your environment is built on chaos, peace will always feel like a luxury. If your environment is full of doubt, confidence won't survive there. If your environment is small, your vision will start to shrink to fit it. If your environment is lifeless, your motivation will follow. There's a reason why the phrase, "you are a product of your environment," is so well known, because it's true. If you're surrounded by books, you'll read books. If you're surrounded by screens, you'll be distracted. That's how it works. That's how the brain works. And then you're forcing yourself, pushing yourself, driving yourself, and which maybe you'll do for 3 days if you're lucky, maybe 3 weeks if you're really lucky, but you're always working against yourself. Step number 5, break the all or nothing cycle. Instead of asking, did I fail? Ask, what can I learn? Instead of starting over, pick up from where you left off. Progress is built in the messy middle, not the perfect start. If you can't stand to be bad at something first, you'll never be great.
I mean, the hardest part about behavior change always, number one, is getting to the starting line. So that's why you want to make it as easy as humanly possible to start. As easy as humanly possible to start. Again, you want to start a meditation routine. That's a fucking great goal. Meditation is awesome. If the start of the target is to meditate 3 days a week for 60 minutes apiece, that's really hard to get to the starting line. You have to start with 60 minutes of meditation. That's a lot. Most meditators don't do that, right? And so that's like causing so much friction between you and the starting line that we're just not going to start, even though that we know it would be good for us. But what if I just said to myself, what if I'm going to take one deep breath when I wake up this morning? Check, meditated, on to the next. Or what if I made sort of an algorithm in my life? Every time I walk through a door, I take a deep breath. That's also meditation. So now we are making it as easy as possible to get to the starting line. And then when we get to the starting line, we can iterate and tweak and review along the way, but we've actually created some momentum and we've actually had some action. We're actually doing the thing, which is most important in any sort of behavior or habit change, is actually doing the thing. So think about that as well as the stuff that Jay Shetty is recommending here. There's about 8 minutes left in this video.
Anything. If you keep editing your ideas before you express them, the world will never hear your voice. If you measure your worth by how few mistakes you make, you'll always feel like a failure. If you only celebrate the finished product, you'll miss the beauty of the process. If you chase flawless, you'll lose authentic. If you chase approval, you lose momentum. Because the truth, perfectionism doesn't make you better, it makes you stuck. It's fear dressed up as high standards. Step number 6, use emotional visualization. See it.
I mean, the perfect person has never existed ever, and you and I will certainly not be the first ones. That should be freeing. I see mistakes as mistakes. mistakes, things that we can just learn and grow from. It wasn't a mistake. It's not a character flaw. It's not a personal defect. It's just me going out there or you going out there, trying, giving our best effort, having a mistake, like shooting a bow and arrow and not hitting the target, and then simply asking ourselves the question, what needs work? Great. Fall down 7, rise 8, just a little bit stronger each time because I'm asking questions, I'm reflecting, I'm learning, I'm iterating, and then I'm moving forward in a better, more confident, more experienced type of way. That is important. He just mentioned visualization, I believe. Cool. That's a great one.
Feel it, embody it. Most people visualize success like a movie: the money, the followers, the applause. But the brain doesn't respond to images, it responds to emotion. Studies from the University of Chicago show that visualizing the process, not just the outcome, increases success rates by 42%. So if you want to start that business, picture the early mornings, the uncertainty and the excitement. If you want to lose weight, imagine how it feels to walk into the gym proud, not intimidated. If you want to launch your podcast, feel what it's like to hit publish for the first time, nervous but excited. Emotion turns fantasy into preparation.
Let me tell you, launch that fucking podcast. If you want to do it, fucking do it. We're 443 episodes deep into my podcast, and it's been the greatest sort of learning tool of all time. I've curated sort of my own university, bringing on guests, reacting to episodes, learning things, doing master classes, having to research stuff, learning to communicate better. Not perfect by any means, as you can see throughout this stream, but just getting better at expressing ideas, understanding things, all from doing a podcast. So I recommend anyone doing it. It's good for you and how you communicate and how you express things. And all things really come down to communication and relationships and how we can express ourselves and how we can listen. And I've learned all of that through doing a podcast.
Close your eyes, see it, feel it, believe it. See the version of you who already has what you want. See them waking up calm, focused, and proud. See them doing the things you keep postponing. See them making the hard choices easily. See them walking into rooms they once felt unworthy of. See them speaking with clarity, creating with confidence, living with purpose. Feel what it's like to be them. Feel the peace in their breath. Feel the strength in their posture. Feel the ease in their decisions. Feel the gratitude they wake up with before anything happens. You don't have to chase this version of you. You're remembering them. You're returning to them.
In the sports world, we call this mental rehearsal or imagineering. And it's one of the most important things you can possibly do. And I think Jay Shetty also touched on this, but like when we do mental rehearsal or we're imagineering or we're visualizing, we're not always seeing everything going perfectly. One of the things I tell my athletes all the time is like, when you're doing your visualization, see something going wrong and see how quickly you can bounce back from it. Right. Okay. Baseball, for example, the umpire makes a bad call. See how good you can respond to that in the best way possible, where you just completely let it go. You say, so what, next pitch? We can visualize that in our own life. Like our boss is yelling at us. We have this obstacle here, whatever. Now I see myself overcoming that, controlling my response and moving forward in the best way possible and spiraling up. I have my athletes visualize that all the time because nothing is going to go perfect. Nothing is going to be free of obstacles. There's going to be different pathways that you have to take to achieve the thing you want, and they're all going to have setbacks. And so when we're visualizing or putting ourselves in that exact environment and we're imagineering and we're rehearsing and we're just feeling it and we're embodying it and we're just seeing happen, we're also seeing ourselves overcome those challenges, responding to setbacks in the best way possible. Bah, 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 boom, right there. And like that is really, really, really helpful. And imagineering or mental rehearsal or visualization only works if you really sink into the moment. Like when I talk to my athletes, I'm like, put yourself back on the field, feel the grass, the sunlight, the jersey you're wearing. Feel everything as much as possible and put yourself in the batter's box or put yourself in that sales call or whatever you're trying to do and really put yourself there. Feel everything about that moment because you have experience doing that thing again, and then execute exactly the way you want to execute, seeing the pitch clearly, being on time with the fastball, executing the call perfectly, being calm, being cool, being collected, being excited, playing free, playing loose. And then, boom, add that challenge, adds that setback. Boom, respond great, and then we're moving forward in the best direction, right? That's really how you imagineer and you visualize exactly what you want to happen and exactly how you want to respond to those setbacks, to those challenges, and to those obstacles, because that is really important in our pathway to success. Because we always, no matter what, have control over our response, our attitude, and our effort. And that's really important. All right, back at you, Jay.
Becoming them one choice, one breath, one act of belief at a time. Because every time you imagine it with feeling, your brain builds evidence that it's real. Every time you see it clearly, your body starts preparing to live it. See it until it feels familiar. Feel it until it feels safe. Believe it until it feels inevitable. You reprogram your mind by seeing yourself doing the hard things and then going out and doing them. Step number 7, work with resistance, not against it. Because fear is feedback, not failure. Every big goal triggers resistance. That's not the universe blocking you. That's your nervous system protecting you. Neuroscience calls this prediction error. The brain resists anything unfamiliar, even if it's good for you. So instead of saying, why do I feel scared? Say, of course I do. This is new. Then act anyway. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's moving while it shakes. You think successful people are not scared. The truth is they're doing what they do while being scared. You think they're not nervous? They're doing what they do while they're nervous. You think they don't experience anxiety? They're experiencing anxiety while they're doing the thing that you love watching them do. That's how it works. You work with it, not against it, because if you keep fighting it, it just gets stronger and bigger.
Every person on the planet, no matter what, feels fear, feels nervousness, all of the above. And Dr. Jordan Peterson has this great quote where he says, people don't get less scared, they get more brave. And I find that very, very powerful, because you're going to keep doing stuff that's hard over and over and over again. And the fear is probably going to continually be there. It might be a little lessened because you've done hard things before, but it's still going to be there. But the reason you move forward is because you've gotten this so much evidence that you've become so much more brave than you were when you started, that you're willing to go through the trenches and go through the fire, because you're now a more courageous and vulnerable person, and you're willing to be more brave because you have the evidence. And so again, you're not going to be less scared, but you are going to get more brave, and you are going to get more evidence that you are the person you say you are. And that's really, really powerful. And when you think about nerves are great. You're in a high arousal state. Okay, so how do I transfer that high arousal state into something that's positive and can move me in the right direction? Well, when I tell my athletes who are feeling nervous in big games or pressure-filled moments, all you have to say is 2 words. I'm excited. I'm excited. I'm excited. And that transfers that sort of nervous, sort of anxious energy into I'm fired up energy, because you don't want to calm down or relax, as people tell you all the time. You want to use that high arousal state because your body's in like this great mode with full of energy. You just want to transfer it into excitement. Like if you're walking out to do a public speech, or you're about to make a sales call, like I'm excited, I'm excited, I'm excited. Yes, I'm a little scared, but if I continue moving forward, I'm going to get more brave. And those are some of the dynamics that are going to help you achieve whatever you're trying to achieve, or just be a human in this very hard and complicated world.
And takes over. Step number 8, build public accountability. Make your goals collaborative with your friends and competitive with the people you really love. A Harvard Business Review found that people who share their goals with a supportive community, that's an important word. It's not about sharing your goals with everyone on the internet. A supportive community are 76% more likely to achieve them. Tell a friend, post your progress in a private group, join a challenge. We don't need more private promises to ourselves, and we don't need more public performance to others. This isn't about tell everyone on Instagram, and it isn't just about live with it on your own. We need shared momentum. Isolation keeps you stuck. Accountability pulls you forward. So you want to be accountable, but to the right group of people. If you tell too many people will shut you down. Right? If you say I want to start a business, someone's going to say, I don't think your idea is that good. Someone else is going to say, yeah, my friend tried a business, it failed. Someone else will say, yeah, give it a go, see how it goes. That's not helpful. If you're around a group of entrepreneurs, they'll ask you questions. They'll say, okay, what's your business about? Okay, what's your plan? Okay, how are you going to find customers? That's the kind of community you want to be around. The problem is we tell friends and family members who have no idea what we're doing, as opposed to telling people.
I'm so glad Jay Shetty brought this up because it gives me another opportunity to reference the study that I referenced the most ever on this podcast or on this channel. Again, my podcast is called Something for Everybody on all major podcast platforms. Check it out, or text me at the number and I'll link you to it. But because he mentioned relationships, it gives me a chance to reference the study that I reference every single time I do anything, which is Harvard's 85-year study, very robust study on happiness. And basically, to simplify it down, they came up with 2 results on how to live the good life: great health and great relationships. And that's what Jay Shetty's talking about. He's talking about great relationships, people that hold you accountable, people that uplift you, people that encourage you, people that hold you on your shit or lift you up when you're down, right? Those are the people that you want to share your goals with. It's not for you to share with everyone. You certainly can share them on social media with everyone, but you're going to get shit from a lot of people. Maybe that's just part of the deal. Maybe that's people projecting. Maybe you want that motivation. Maybe you're like Michael Jordan and you want people to talk a little shit to you, but most likely you're not. Most likely you want to be in a core group of supportive individuals who are asking you how it's going, asking you the hard-hitting questions, giving you the feedback, holding you accountable to the things that you said. That is about great relationships, and that's one of the cornerstones of living the good life, according to Harvard. And then, of course, like all people in the world, we have to have great health. Eat well, move well, sleep well, think well, take care of your health. This is the only body, mind, and soul that we have. And that taking care of our health leads to having great relationships. And so that's a really important part of achieving anything in this world. I mean, Dr. Michael Gervais, sports psychologist, says this all the time. Nobody does anything great alone. And why would we? Why would we want to do anything great alone? Anything that happens good in my life, I want to share it with my people, whether that's my wife, whether that's my 3.5-month-old son. Like, I want to share it with my friends. I want to, that's the cool shit about life. Like, you reach the top of the mountain, you got no one fucking around. What's the point? Right? What's the point? So anyways, let's continue. A few more minutes left in this Jay Shetty video.
You actually have the expertise and insight. And joining those groups and communities and meeting people is a really, really powerful thing you can do for yourself.
Looking for an easier way to get that LLC next to your business name? Say hello to Taylor Brands. Just go to their...
See ya.
Step number 9, use gratitude as fuel, not fluff, because motivation fades, but appreciation sustains. Gratitude isn't just a nice feeling, it's a neurological hack. When you track progress, even small wins, you release dopamine, the brain's reward chemical. That's why celebrating each step keeps you consistent long after excitement fades. Start your days not with what's missing, but with what's moving. You realize you're not waiting for your dream life, you're already living pieces of it. Because number 10 is becoming the kind of person your dream requires.
So let's stop on there for a second. Gratitude postures us for the miracles of life. And the sort of the cousin or the sibling or the best friend of gratitude is optimism. And optimism is the fundamental belief that things will work out for the best through the appropriate energy, attention, and focus. So if you really want to hunt the good stuff and appreciate what you have and enjoy the miracles of life, then you must be practicing and implementing gratitude and optimism into your life. And then Jay Shetty mentioned celebrating the small wins. How do we do that? Well, simply what I tell my athletes is that when you do something you said you were going to do, which is exactly what we're trying to do here, then simply tell yourself, that's like me. That's a celebration of the small win. Every time you do something that you said you were going to do and you want to repeat that behavior, you have to reward it. And the way you reward it is you simply pat yourself on the back, throw up a fist, and say, that's like me. That's how you celebrate the small wins, and that's how you reward that behavior. So you repeat it, so you continue doing the thing you know is best for you, and you keep keeping the promises you make to yourself, which ultimately builds your confidence and self-trust and all of those types of things. So let's continue. Got a few more minutes left in this Jay Shetty video, and then we're going to a habit video by Dr. Andrew Huberman to sort of piggyback off of this.
Identity is the ultimate manifestation tool. You can't create a 2026 version of your life with a 2024 version of your beliefs. So instead of asking, what do I want? Ask yourself, who am I willing to become? The person who starts a business acts like a founder before the business exists. The person who launches the podcast speaks like a creator before the audience appears. Identity drives action. And when you act like the person who already has what you want, your brain starts catching up. 2026 won't magically change your life, but you can. The universe doesn't respond to wishful thinking. It responds to clear energy and consistent action. So this year, don't just set goals, design your system.
I mean, this is the idea of like wishing versus deciding. It can start with a wish. It can start with a dream. It can start with a goal. It can start with something that you're thinking about most often. But then at some point, you have to make the switch into I am deciding, which is I am committing to doing this thing no matter how long or how hard it takes. It's the difference between wishing and deciding. You can fucking do it. You can absolutely fucking do it, but you have to establish the right systems and routines and daily targets, and you have to iterate and tweak and review and take different pathways and fall down and get back up and ask for help and then do this. And it's like, yes, it seems hard and overwhelming, but you're capable of doing it. Why not? If I can do it or anyone else can do it, we're no special or different than you. We're just people in the world trying our fucking hardest, stumbling and figuring it out along the way, which means you can absolutely do it as well.
Choose your word, align your identity. And remember, intention and infrastructure. Thank you so much for listening.
Excuse me.
I hope you have an amazing 2026. I'm wishing you all the best. Make sure you subscribe to On Purpose to never miss an episode. I'll be guiding you through the year. And remember, I'm forever in your corner and always rooting for you. If you love this episode,
Thank you, Jay Shetty. Thank you, Jay Shetty. We appreciate that. And like he said, subscribe, but don't subscribe to On Purpose. Subscribe to Something for Everybody, my podcast on all major podcast platforms, because I will also be with you all year. We released a reflection guide for 2025. Next up, we have a goal setting masterclass. And next up, we have a Habits 101 class. We also do short episodes, guest episodes, all types of things on my podcast called Something for Everybody. But let's piggyback off of that video from Jay Shetty, which I did enjoy. I found he shared some insightful things. Normally, I don't love Jay Shetty. I think I find him better in potentially in solo episodes rather than when he is an interviewer, but it doesn't matter. He shared valuable information that we can all learn from. Maybe I'm just jealous that he has a large audience, so maybe it's just a personal bias that I gotta fucking get over. But now we're gonna see a video from Chris Williamson and Dr. Andrew Huberman. I think it's just a clip from their larger episode, which I don't know is getting released, but it's titled "The #1 Habit for Productivity." So let's check that out. Let me get this sharing going, and we will fucking rock and roll ski. Boom. Okay, layout. All right, here we go.
I've been thinking about this a lot this year. What do we need to know about the neuroscience of making habit setting more easy? I imagine that there must be some really interesting.
Oh man. I just had James Clear on the podcast, and it's so interesting when you sit down with somebody who's like the habits guy, and you compare it against the neuroscience. And so there's sort of two ways into this. And James has done a magnificent job of explaining things that people can do to improve their habits and reduce bad habits. The reason I'm so bullish about people understanding a little bit of mechanism behind the checklist of things to do is that I do think that when people understand mechanism, it gives them flexibility over the so-called protocols. And I think it also allows them to customize those things for themselves. Let's face it, if you want to go online now and just say, what are the top 10 things I can do to improve my sleep? And you get a list, and you put those on your refrigerator, put them next to your bed. Why doesn't everyone just do that?
Yep.
It's because the way that people go about learning information strongly drives whether or not they apply that information.
Yep.
Okay, so in fairness to James and the incredible work that he's done, I'm going to just kind of look at this a little bit through the lens of neuroscience. And I'm really glad that we're talking about this because one of the things that he said that I think is so true is that the thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, James Clear is like the habits guy, but I also think A better book, which I've already stated in this stream, but I'm going to say it again, a better book when it comes to habit change and habit formation is a book by BJ Fogg called Tiny Habits. It's just a little bit more in depth, a little bit more detailed, and I think it's just a better book than Atomic Habits. Nothing against, obviously, James Clear. Fucking unbelievable success. Great book. Changed millions of lives. Fuck yeah. Love that. But I just enjoyed and found more information to be useful and applicable, and that I can actually apply into my life from BJ Fogg's book called Tiny Habits. So maybe you want to check that out. No affiliation to him, even though I did talk about it every single episode. But at one point, the universe will align and we will get him on the show. But anyways, here we go. Here's Dr. Andrew Huberman.
And by extension, the emotions, but really the thoughts that you have right now, your ability to focus right now is strongly driven by the inputs you received in the preceding hours and even days. So one of the things that's really interesting about focus and attention, and a lot of habits have to do with, I don't want to procrastinate, I want to do this. We can talk about exercise, but let's talk about cognitive stuff.
See ya.
It's very, very clear that if you have a hard time getting into a bout of work or even staying focused, there's a very good chance, I believe, that your breaks between work and what you were doing before work was too stimulating. I'm a big advocate for boring breaks, and I'm a big advocate for silence before and after bouts of work for a couple of reasons. Let's think about it on the back end. Let's say you're trying to learn something or read a book or just do something that you're not reflexively doing. You want to create this habit. It's very clear that neuroplasticity, yes, requires alertness, requires focus. You need sleep later that night. I've been beating that drum for a number of years. It's also clear that reflection on what you were doing at some later time, just kind of like post-learning reflection, walk into your car, sitting on the plane for a second, thinking about a podcast you did earlier or something you heard or a discussion, strongly reinforces the memories and the ability to work with the memories of new information. And this is something that we've given up largely because of our smartphones. You're constantly bringing in new sensory information.
Hence why, I talked about this on a deeper, larger level of using my ultimate 2025 reflection guide from my podcast to reflect, learn from our experiences of 2025 to use that as fuel for growth heading into our 2026. Obviously, Andrew Huberman is talking about that in sort of a small scale before getting ready for a deep work bout or doing deep work like, Cal Newport style. But on a larger scale, we can do that for our 2025, our weeks, our months, reflecting on those, learning, understanding energy givers, energy drainers, what went well, what didn't go well, what do I want to tweak, what do I want to stop doing, so we can move into the next week, the next month, the next year a little bit better than we were before, understanding some of those things a little bit deeper. He's talking about it on a smaller scale for like habits before maybe you get into like a deep work or something like that. So let's continue.
All the data, I did an episode on how to best study and learn. I went to the data to find out, because I have my methods, but that doesn't mean they're the best methods. Reading, rereading, note-taking, highlighting, it's all fine. But it turns out the biggest lever is to self-test at some point away from the material. So testing is not just something for evaluation of others. It's a way that we should think, how much can I remember about that conversation? What was tricky? Okay, I don't remember.
That's literally why I do solo podcast episodes. I'm not an expert in anything, but I study certain material. I've been studying sort of mindset, mental health, personal development since about 2018 when it became really important to me. And the reason why I do solo episodes is because I've studied the information, researched it, read a book, podcast, all these types of things. And am I understand the information enough for me to be able to distill that information to an audience of people so they can also understand best practices and also then apply it to their own lives. That's why I love a solo episode. That's why I like researching for it and writing it out and creating notes and then presenting it hopefully in a logical, coherent way. Some of the solo episodes I've done have fucking been bad and they've been received poorly because I didn't present the episode or the information in a logical, coherent way for people to understand, digest, and then apply. And so you get better over time. You have reps, you have practices. So that's why I encourage a lot of people, anyone, to do sort of a solo episode-esque. It doesn't have to be in a public platform for anyone, but how can you study a piece of information that you find important, that you want to apply to your life, and then talk to a friend about it, write something out about it, record an episode about it, so that you can actually see if you do certainly understand the thing that you just listened to or read or talked about, exactly what Huberman is discussing here.
That piece, I'm going to go back and look it up. All learning is, and this will sound like a giant duh, but all learning is anti-forgetting. How do we know this? Because if you have people read a passage 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times versus one time and they self-test, one time and self-testing significantly better.
You ever had Peter C. Brown on the show?
No.
Author of Make It Stick?
No, but I like the title.
You need to bring Peter on. Peter was episode, I would guess, like 30 on Modern Wisdom. You'll be 1,030. And the best synopsis that I got from him, learning how to learn, was learning is repeated recall, not repeated exposure.
Yes. Beautiful. Right.
Fucking money.
Exactly.
And that's
learning is repeated recall, not repeated exposure. Okay. Learning is repeated recall, not repeated exposure. So it doesn't matter. You can expose yourself to the same thing over and over again, but if you can't recall it, it doesn't matter. That's why Huberman is saying learn the information, self-test, which is basically learning and then recalling. So that's brilliant.
That's the
exactly. And this is
the Ebbinghaus forgetting curve.
Yeah.
That's
guys like him, guys like James Clear, that they have a real, when I say unconscious genius, I mean, clearly they put thought into and structure into what they teach, but the neuroscience supports everything you just said, which is what he just said. And reflecting on what you were trying to do or learn or solve, even if you don't remember, even if you're still puzzled by it, is so vitally important to the anti-forgetting process. Okay. Now, in terms of actually being able to focus, actually being able to do work, it's so clear that thoughts, and this is the beautiful statements and work of a woman named Jenny Groh, who's spelled G-R-O-H, at Duke University, who's a neuroscientist, been studying sensory integration for a long time. You know, I've long thought about, and I think we now understand as a field, what sensations are. So sensations are the physical stimuli in the environment, photons of light, mechanical pressure, odor, volatile.
Hey, TikTok, please check out the merchandise that we got linked down below. But if you want to be on the full stream, it's over on YouTube. Cheers.
Odorants in the environment that lead to, sight, touch, smell, etc. How that gets converted into chemical and electrical signals in the brain, we understand as a field. We understand sensation. We understand perception. Perception is which of those sensations you happen to be paying attention to. Okay. We understand emotions now more as a subset of something that we think of more broadly as states that are set by your autonomic nervous system, how alert you are, how not alert you are. And then emotions are kind of layered on top of that, right? Lisa Feldman Barrett has beautiful descriptions of these and so on. And there's some debate about what emotions really are, but we know what they are neurobiologically and psychologically. And behaviors, we know what they are, right? It's a behavior. And then there's the don't go behaviors, the suppression of behavior. And then there are memories, right? But for the longest time, it's been unclear, what are thoughts? Like what are they? Are they just like spontaneous geysering up of memories, or like what's going on there? And Jenny Groh, I think, has the absolute best description of these. And this is based on experimentation. If we seed some idea, so let's say I say to you, let's not talk about cats because I'm a dog person, but I say, okay, Chris, and this isn't a trick question, I promise, because it's always weird when people start doing this. I'm not Oz Perlman or something. I'm not going to like tell you your pin code. Mm-hmm. Think about a dog. Okay. What kind of dog is it?
Golden Retriever.
Golden Retriever. Okay. So as you think about the Golden Retriever, like what other things come to mind about the Golden Retriever?
It's got a little neckerchief on.
Okay.
Red neckerchief.
Great. Red neckerchief. Like what else about Golden Retriever?
Fluffy.
Okay. So there's a tactile thing. Okay. Anything else about Golden Retrievers? This is very specific to you.
Bouncing up and down, rolling on its back. Smells a little bit, but I like it.
Great. Okay. So there's I like it. You like this. Okay. So Jenny Groh's and others' data point to the fact that thoughts basically start with some seed element, some noun, some pronoun, some thing, some event. And then what the brain does is it essentially starts to call on more and more sensations and starts layering those in. More and more prior sensory events. It's red handkerchief. Okay, Brandon, it's fluffy. There's a tactile. And that thoughts really are the layering on of more and more sensory memories. And thoughts are really a layering of the senses in abstract thought space. Now, this is not meant to, make something from nothing, but it's so important that we understand this, because you think, what is the ability to think? Well, the ability to think is constrained by the number of different senses I'm trying to place on a bunch of different things. And so that's how we navigate through environments, which is what Jenny Groh's main work is about, how you find yourself in space. I can't look at everything in this garage. I have to focus on certain things, find the Phillips head screwdriver, go over there, and you're discarding all the other information. Now, when you think about sitting down to do work or to learn something or prepare a podcast, it is so important that you limit the number of sensory inputs coming in, not just during that event, but before. Because the sensory stimulus that kind of sets off this cascade of layering in more and more sensory memories and understanding is begun before you sit down to read your book. This is why,
This is interesting and sort of reinforces some information that I tell my players. It's like, when we get to the baseball field, put your phone away. The more you look at your phone before some sort of event that you need to focus on, you are draining your focus muscles, like Huberman is stating, and you have less of those muscles and less of that ability to focus on the next task ahead of you. And so if you're constantly looking at your phone the whole time you're in the car, and then when you get to the field, pregame, in the dugout, wherever it is, or right before you jump on the sales call, or right before you have the presentation or the meeting, you are draining your focus muscles, which you have a limited supply of. And so that's why Huberman mentioned very early in this video about boring breaks. Let it go. Put the phone down. Just be where you are in this moment right here, right now, which could be very hard, but you're not destroying those focus muscles before you want to use them in the most important task you have coming up. So it's important for athletes and for really anyone in the world who's about to do a sort of work bout, a deep work bout, maybe 90 minutes, 180 minutes, or a sales call or a presentation or a speech or a sporting event. The before stuff is really, really important. That's why most athletes in the whole world talk about how important their preparation is, their process is, because it gets them ready to perform, and they're priming their focus muscles, not destroying their focus muscles before they enter, competition or whatever the case may be.
you read a portion of a book and then you're like, oh wait, I wasn't even paying attention. Your brain is still working with the sensory inputs from before. It's not thinking about them consciously. So this is vitally important. If you go back and you look at the history of attention and thinking, and you can find these incredible pictures that they would give kids who had trouble, probably had ADHD or just kind of rambunctious boys in most cases. And they literally gave them helmets with 2 eye holes so they couldn't look at anything else.
Like
they couldn't
blinkers for
hear
horses.
anyone else. Right. Used to be, kid with the hoodie on and the cap, and you'd write. Now, what have we done? The challenge is that we've brought an infinite number of sensory experiences into the thing that you're looking at.
Oh, wow.
So we brought all the sensory inputs through the device that you're holding.
So the narrowing of your perspective hasn't helped you to narrow the distractions.
That's right. Cognitive space is still infinite, even though the spatial limitation of where you're placing your attention is very restricted. So the fact that you have so many competing thoughts has everything to do with that. And it also has everything to do with what you were doing in the 10 or 15 minutes before you sat down to try to work. Now, in China, they're doing some very interesting experiments of having kids stare literally at a focal point on the wall for a number of minutes before beginning their work. Sounds a little extreme, a little military, but one thing that I've been doing before I prepare to do any writing, any podcasting, any work is I try and make myself as bored as possible. I try and remove as much sensory input as possible. I might think about my breathing because it's hard to not think about anything. But I really have started to limit the amount of sensory information coming into my space. I have an entire floor of where I live now. I live in kind of an odd structure now, but the entire bottom floor is a no phone zone. Once or twice I brought my phone down there, but it's
Interesting. You want to try to make yourself as bored as humanly possible before you're about to do a task that you deem important. Again, so you can have all of your focus muscles available and ready. I mean, then there's a larger conversation about boredom and creativity and things of that nature. And then there's a larger conversation about the usage of your phone and how you can create emotional parameters and boundaries on your phone. Or is the phone in control of you? Or are you in control of your phone use? And then there's some things you want to look at in that regard of things you need to stop doing and start doing and continue doing, and things you need to put in place as sort of algorithms or rules or standards in your life that prevent you from constantly looking at your phone, or having places in your house where you don't have a phone. It's like no phones allowed, or allowing yourself to be bored for 10-15 minutes throughout the day, and things like that are going to add value to your life and allow you to stick to the habit that you want to, or focus more when you want to, or get dialed in faster and quicker and more deep than you want to, because a lot of people these days are doing shallow work. If you want to do deep focused work, you have to implement some of these things in place. Hormozy talks about it. Obviously Huberman is talking about it, and it's important, and it's how you really get the best out of yourself and the best you want to do with the work you have in front of you.
No
cool.
phone zone. I'm going down the stairs. There are no phones in there. I'm trying to figure out how I can have no internet there. I have this little tent sauna that I use now with incandescent
Like
lights
Faraday
that I love,
cage type.
because I couldn't use my barrel sauna where I was at. It's I think it's Sauna Space makes these incredible. I like them because they get hot right away, and it's got the red light. I go in there. It's it's grounded, and there's no Wi-Fi in there. The phone goes dead the moment you go in there.
You're in a mini Faraday cage.
Yeah, and I don't like bringing the phone into the sauna too.
A quick aside, if you have been feeling a bit sluggish, your testosterone levels might be the problem. They play a huge role in your energy, your focus, and your performance, but because I want .com/modern wisdom. That's functionhealth.com/
Okay, that's it. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Huberman. Don't know if that video was actually worth watching, but whatever. It was short. It was part of it. Sort of piggybacked off of a little bit of what Jay Shetty said. I did enjoy the Jay Shetty video. Again, I think it's potentially an important information for people to apply into their lives about manifestation, the word he used a lot, or some people use goal setting. I like to use target setting. I think it's important we have a target, because as humans, we're teleological, which means we need something to aim at. We need a target to aim at, whether that your purpose or your passion or whatever you want to call it. We just need something to aim at. It gives us more direction in our life, and it allows us to develop some of these systems and habits that will lead us to ultimately going in that direction of our target, whether that's our systems, our habits, our daily actions, our protocols, all sorts of things we've talked about throughout this stream. But we want to focus on the things that are fully in our control, and that is our attitude, effort, our response, the habits we have, the systems we create, and the things that we do on a day-to-day action or day-to-day basis that are going to lead us down the right path, because our direction is more important than our speed when thinking about becoming the best version of ourselves. And then Huberman talked about, boring work and creating some sort of boring environment right before you get into a deep work bout, so you're not draining your focus muscles or your focus energy, so you can actually do the task that you deemed most important and actually get into that deep work, which is extremely important and valuable for sort of the benefit of our life, and also into us blossoming into the best version of ourselves in greatest service to the world. So those are the videos that we're reacting to today. Short stream, but still doing it here on this Sunday morning. It's January 4th, 2026. So we're still kicking off 2026. Tomorrow is the first Monday of 2026. That's amazing. Hopefully it's going well for you. Please use my podcast, Something for Everybody, as a resource for you to have the best year of your life. Start with the ultimate reflection guide that I created, about 35-minute episode for you to reflect on your 2025. Then use that to transfer into the goal setting masterclass that will be coming out on the first Friday of 2026. Then use that, take notes on that. Then the next Friday comes out the Habits 101 class. You're going to have, by the end of January, you're going to have 3 episodes that really sort of are piggyback off one another, that are going to give you all the tools and protocols and habits and informations that you need to have the best year of your life, hopefully. And use me as a resource anytime you need. And please subscribe, follow everywhere you are. Again, the podcast is called Something for Everybody on all major podcast platforms. And I appreciate you very much. If you text that number, 201-534-3681, you can directly reach me, and I'll link you to any of the episodes or newsletters that go over all the information that I discussed today. So thank you very much. I'll see you next time. And again, Happy New Year. Let's kick off the year strong. First Monday coming up. Fuck yeah, you got this. Cheers.